Welcome to the Rialto Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a revenue acceleration series interview where we talk to seven-figure B2B business owners and their growth-focused executives who are actively trying to grow their businesses and get to the next level. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can learn from their experience. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have Corin Romkey from Atlantic Data Security with me today. Corin, how are you, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, man. I'm excited to dig into this with you today. Before we do that, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions if you're ready to jump in with both feet.
Absolutely.
Okay, man. Very quickly, what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, I'm the head of marketing at Atlantic Data Security. We're a cybersecurity company, and I've been here coming up on 2 years in May. It's been a wild ride, but it's been awesome.
Yeah. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned in your professional experience?
I think, if I look at cybersecurity specifically, it's that the marketing tactics that work in other industries may not necessarily apply directly to cybersecurity. I come from a background in technology. I've been in SaaS and technology my entire career so far. And, oftentimes it's as simple as turning on ads and, the lead funnel opens up. Whereas in cybersecurity, it's a lot more nuanced, a lot more educationally focused. And it's really, you need to bring your customers and your prospects up to speed with what's going on because, within cybersecurity, it's a constantly changing landscape. What could have been successful last year may not be successful this year, and what was successful last month may not be successful this month. So It's always trying to keep abreast of all of that stuff and making sure that we are highly educated or highly educating our customer base.
Yeah. Do you think that difference from this position to others it has to do, again, like you said, with that educational process? The buying cycles tend to be much, much longer. Do you think that's what's playing into that?
Yeah, I think within cybersecurity, it requires a lot more touch points than typical SaaS. You need to make sure that you are putting out education, but then you're also bringing them into different events and meeting them face to face, having conversations, helping them stay on top of everything, and then letting them know about what types of breaches are happening out there and what kind of solutions you can implement to help mitigate those breaches or eliminate the breaches altogether.
Yeah. Man, growing a business, work, it's hard. Any kind of mantra or something motivational that you say to yourself or share with folks on your team to kind of push through those challenging times?
I think the biggest thing really is, we're all on the same ship together, so we should be rowing in the same direction. If you have disconnects between departments or within your team itself, it makes it really difficult if you're going against what each other are doing. So really just trying to build the collaboration between departments and collaboration between teams to make sure that, we are all rowing in the same direction and, singing from that same sheet of music.
Yeah, I love that, man. So let's dig into it. You said you've been with Atlantic Data Security for a couple of years now. When you first stepped into the role as director of marketing, what were your top priorities that you were focused on, and how did you decide where to begin?
I think the biggest thing, we're in a digital industry, and having a digital footprint is extremely important. And that was something that we didn't have a large digital footprint at that point. So that was the first thing I came in and wanted to implement was a content generation machine, looking at different advertising revenue or avenues, and then building out things like educational videos, doubling down on webinars. Everything digitally focused has been really what we've been driving towards. Obviously, we do a lot of events and stuff and in person. That has been tried and true. We know that's going to work. But the big thing that we didn't know was going to work is SEO going to drive anything? Is the digital advertising aspects with LinkedIn and Google Ads, is that going to actually result in revenue? And the only way you can find that out is by testing it. And so that's what one of the first things we did was we came in and we started testing. And I think, the mantra for marketers everywhere is ABC or ABT, always be testing. So that's really what we implemented. And then further along that line, I mean, doing nurture sequences, we had a huge CRM when it came in, but we didn't know if those people were engaged. So coming in, we wanted to make sure we had highly engaged contacts within our CRM. You know, you can have 100,000 contacts, but if only 10,000 of them are replying to your emails, why not just focus on those 10,000? So really just refining the digital process has been a big one. And then, like I mentioned, the content generation machine has been a huge aspect. You know, we started doing a lot more blogs last year. We implemented a lot more white papers, and now, you know, we actually just launched our own podcast last week. That's really focused on kind of pulling back the curtain on the cybersecurity industry and letting people see what's really happening on a day-to-day basis. And then doing videos. I think videos, you know, video is king. If you look at, you know, Instagram and Facebook, you shifted away from from just static image posts, and with TikTok coming into play, I think, you know, 5-6 years ago, it really showed the necessity of having strong video content and that people will consume it. So that's been a big focus that we've had, especially in the last year.
Yeah. So you guys are creating a lot of content. You have written blog content, you're doing video content, and then you just launched a podcast. So
yep.
Your video content primarily shorter form that you're promoting on social, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a mix of both. For the most part, it has been short form for now, and we do have the intention of doing long form. I think with that, you know, it makes sense to implement the partnerships that we have with a lot of our vendors to really tell more of a holistic story, as opposed to just ADS coming and dictating to people and telling them what we do. It's better to have more voices in the room. So for the short form stuff, a lot of it's primarily built around adding extra value to our blogs, adding extra value to the case studies we do, to our white papers, to the core aspects of our business itself. With long form, that's where we're going to be implementing, bringing in different partners, and really just having more of a conversation outside of the podcast, doing fireside chats, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What are you guys doing? How often are you doing webinars?
It's a good question. It really varies based on the time of year. I think when we have those lulls in events, that's when we try to really incorporate the webinar aspect to it. Doing value-add webinars is a big one where, you know, the attendees have something tangible to take home. Whether that's, you know, an ebook or a bottle of wine, we want to make sure that we do something fun and interactive with them. I mean, for example, you know, we have a webinar week. We have 2 webinar weeks a year. So we have one coming up in March. I think we have 7 or 8 different vendors lined up for that. And then we have a second one that we typically do the beginning of November, again, to kind of just offset those lulls in the event periods.
Got it. So you're using those, you're doing a lot in a short period of time. And it also, so you're bringing in vendors to help support those.
Yeah.
How are you promoting those?
So we promote those primarily through email sequences. We promote that through direct outreach from our sales reps to their customers and prospects. And then we put that on social. Okay. Social media has been a big driver of that. We tend to do like 2 to 3 week long campaigns promoting each webinar. And then, I mean, throughout the year, we also do one-off webinars with a lot of our partners as well. It's more on a monthly basis as opposed to cramming, you know, 6 into a week. Yeah. Those are more situational. Those are really upon request of either the vendor themselves or our sales reps.
Are you doing any paid ads to drive traffic for signups?
As of right now, we're not. That is something that we're looking to implement, likely not for this webinar week, but probably for the November one. And then throughout the year, we want to make sure that we're driving a lot of attendees through paid social to our webinars with our partners. So we'll primarily be using LinkedIn, possibly looking at Reddit. Not sure, you know, how well that'll resonate with the people on Reddit, but a big one is going to be the LinkedIn paid ad side.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I want to dig into content creation a little bit, but I want to pull something out really quickly that you shared where you talked about always be testing. You know, and I always, the 3 steps I talk about is test, measure, learn, right? And it's just wash, rinse, repeat with marketing. So important, because like so many people that aren't in marketing day to day feel like, oh, like I put something together and it just, you know, it didn't work. Well, guess what? Most of it freaking doesn't work. That's why like we're always testing, measuring, and learning. And it's that iterative process that helps us find the things that are going to work well for us.
And just to kind of echo that, I think even from the failures, you learn something. You
Absolutely.
still are having all those metrics. You're looking at your impressions, your engagements, the clicks onto your actual content itself.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't result in a conversion, doesn't mean that it wasn't successful. It's, and like you said, it's an iterative process. It's, especially when you look at cybersecurity, where your sales cycles can be anywhere from 100 days all the way up to 500 days, depending if there's an RFP involved. Gathering the information from there and applying what you thought was successful in that campaign to something else, it very well could lead to leads generated. It could lead to sales coming in, but you don't know unless you actually test it and analyze what you're doing.
Yeah. When you're never, to your point, you're never going to get to the successes if you don't fail. So, it's part of the process. So, really important to think long-term and just take the action, test, measure, learn, and you'll get there. One of the things you shared about your content creation process is leveraging your engineers. What steps did you take to get their buy-in, and how is this whole process working? How are you doing that?
So I work very closely with our VP of Services, who oversees everything on the MSP side of the business, all the way from our FSAs down through to actually our FSAs just moved over to sales, but our engineering team falls under him, and having conversations with him and saying, we need more of a technical approach to some of our content. Obviously, it can't all be technical because, sorry, it's hard to get a lot of buy-in from end users if it's only technical jargon being thrown at you. So having a good mix between the two is important. But really leaning on the VP of Services and having him help me understand how can we supplement some of the content that we're doing with a more technical dive in. And then that kind of just led to some conversations internally. One of our engineers wrote something like a 10,000 word blog. And we split it up into 4 or 5 different blogs because there was such a technical deep dive that we felt, if we put 10,000 words out, it's going to be really difficult to really comprehend and to get those bite-sized pieces you needed out of it.
Yeah.
So splitting it up and making it more consumable and more palatable, that was a big thing. And then that kind of has snowballed into having more conversations with our engineers and more conversations within the services side where we can say, look, like this was really successful. We felt that it's resonating really well with our audience. It's got great metrics on LinkedIn. Let's continue going down this path. Let's bring you guys into videos. Let's bring you onto the podcast. And we're currently building out a calendar to do that. So right now it's pretty high. It's been pretty light on the engineering side, but it's something we plan on ramping up this year. And I mean, it was highly successful the first couple of times. So, it goes back to always be testing, and the first test went well. So we want to make sure we incorporate that. And I think from a business perspective as a whole, marketing really needs to work with every department. It can't just be marketing doing marketing. It needs to be marketing working with sales. It needs to be marketing working with services and engineering. So the more opportunities we can have for more touch points with our engineers, the more visibility they get. But then also, the more education we're putting out to our end users.
Yeah. Corin, there's a few things I want to pull out here that I think are super valuable. One, you kind of touched on, hey, as marketing folks, we need to be talking to everybody that's involved in the customer journey, right? Marketing's on the front end, you got sales in the middle, and then you've got customer experience, customer service, right? Your engineers, man, they got their feet on the ground. They're seeing some of these cybersecurity issues pop up, on a daily, weekly basis. Those are all opportunities to create content. Hey, we saw this come up. This is how we addressed it, right? Or we saw this new thing pop up. You need to be on the lookout for it, right? It doesn't have, just because it's coming from an engineer doesn't mean it has to be super technical, right? But leveraging them for that content it's an untapped resource in most companies. And whether you're an MSP or not, you've got sales, you've got customer service. Those are all opportunities for content.
Yeah. And when I look at it from a marketing perspective, realistically, the only times we have boots on the ground for marketing is at field marketing events. We are not the ones having conversations with customers and understanding where are their pain points, where are they having potential breaches. So that's where utilizing our engineering team, who's they're on the back end every day. They're the ones looking at all these different solutions and architecting it all. And then I think also leveraging sales is big too, because they're the ones having the conversations. They're the ones hearing all the issues that customers and prospects are having. So having a holistic marketing approach where everybody is involved, I think it's extremely important, and it's just going to result in better content, better education, and at the end of the day, hopefully sales.
Yeah, totally agree. So you mentioned field marketing. I want to dig into this a little bit because you've combined your field marketing and digital strategies in some interesting ways. First off, when you talk about field marketing, what are you talking about for people that aren't familiar with that term?
I think it's a mix of in-person events and digital events. So I think we had something like 50 events last year. I was just looking at our campaigns the other day. We had 55 campaigns total for field marketing. A lot of the times it's just one-off events like dinners where we invite 6 or 7 CISOs and we have them sit down with our chief cybersecurity evangelist, and he'll kind of give them the spiel about who is ADS, why do you care? And then we will layer in our engineers, we'll bring in sales reps to have conversations. And then it can go, all the way through to one of our marquee events, like our Northeast Tech Summit on the Green that we're going to be playing. We have 18 holes of golf. We have a tournament set up. But at the start of it, we have a partner showcase where we bring in anywhere from 15 to 25 vendors. We have a little powwow at the start. We have our title sponsors do a presentation, and then we encourage all of the attendees to go and talk to every single vendor. We incentivize it too with like giveaways, and we have this little passport program that we do where there's a secret question each one of them has, and if you get your passport filled out, you're entered to win a draw. That kind of stuff. That really resonates well, and it creates a lot of opportunities for cross-selling between our vendor partners.
Yeah. Are you guys, so it sounds like you're hosting a lot of your own events.
Yeah.
Are you also doing events that are more, trade show type conferences and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think this year we've got, I want to say 5 or 6 conferences lined up. We've got 2 in Toronto, a bunch in Boston or the New England area, I think 1 in New York, and then a couple down in the Southeast as well. Those, it's very interesting when you go to those. A lot of the time, on the trade show floor, you're not going to be having the conversations that lead to sales, but we also like to incorporate doing things after the events, like happy hours, or, we'll take them out golfing afterwards or something like that, where we can have more of a one-on-one conversation for a longer period of time, because nobody wants to stand at a trade show booth for an hour and talk.
No.
I mean, those days are gone. Now it's how do you get that person into their comfort zone to have more of a one-on-one conversation, make that personal connection, and then, bring in the business aspect of it afterwards.
Yeah. So what are some of the more successful initiatives you've had around some of your events? Anything come to mind there?
I think the Tech Summit on the Green, we have 2 of them. Those have been probably our most successful events, at least in my tenure here. Having the opportunity to go and sit in a golf cart with 3 people that, are very important end users, and having conversations around where are their pain points, what solutions can we implement, and then having fun. Those have always been very successful. We always get a lot of really good opportunities out of those, and usually some good sales too.
Yeah.
But I think the building the connection part is the most important aspect of that. And I always say this to everybody. I think when you look at sales and you look at creating a sale, the most important thing is building a relationship. If you don't like the person that's trying to sell you something, you're not going to buy from them. So you have to create a friendship. You need to create that relationship. Even if it's at a superficial level, you need to have a personal connection with the person, or they're going to say, well, I could go to a different company and get the same thing with somebody I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Corin, one of the things that we talked about in the pre-interview was co-op and marketing development funds. You guys are leveraging that. How did you go about? Let me take a step back. You're leveraging it. A lot of MSPs that I talk to are not, and so I want to kind of pull it out from you. Like, how did you navigate these programs, and any advice that you'd give other companies that are looking to utilize those resources effectively?
Yeah, and I can't take all the credit for it. I mean, I have to really give a shout out to our field marketing team. They're the ones that really are getting those funds and putting them to good use. But my advice to companies that have the opportunity to use co-op and MDF is use it. There's no reason not to use it. I mean, it's there. They want to give you that money so that you can go and promote their business and you can go create opportunities for them. If you have it, use it. I mean, there's so many different events you can do. I mean, we do. Sometimes we'll use it for those CISO dinners. Sometimes it's for the tech summits. Sometimes it's for advertising. If you have the opportunity to use that and not have that come directly from your budget, even if you're doing a split on the funding, there's no point not using it. I mean, it's there for you. Those programs are in place for a reason. You're obviously a valued partner to that organization if they're offering you co-op or MDF. They have faith in your marketing team and your sales team. Go and use it, and have the conversations around what are the stipulations behind it. Are there certain things you can do and you can't do with it? Get the education on it. Get an understanding from your partners on what they've seen successfully or seen MDF used for successfully in the past. And I think when the name of the game in marketing is, if you find something that works, don't try and fix it. If it works, it works. So I mean, if they've got experience in MDF being successful in the past, use it. And if they haven't, it goes back to always be testing. Test it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go well, you're in the exact same spot you are right now.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's found money. But like you said, you have to understand what the requirements are for you to be able to utilize the money. So sometimes, you got to co-brand things or whatever. I would think that in field marketing, it's a lot easier if there's co-branding requirements, your field marketing efforts make that much easier. I think it can be a lot more difficult in a digital setting. If you've got a co-brand, depending on what type of campaign it is, but any particular thoughts around that?
I mean, in the past with us for the digital aspect, it really comes down to, like you said, the co-branding and making sure that your collateral speaks to both businesses. It can't just be all about ADS. It can't just be all about our vendor partner. It needs to really be about how we work together and the story we can tell together. Yeah. If I look at some of the case studies we've put out, a lot of the time, we want to make sure that if a vendor did a great job, we highlight that. And then when you go to market with that, you want to make sure that same story is being told and that it's cohesive. And that, again, it's the same thing as I said about the mantra. You're all on the same ship, row together. Find the best way that you can work with the vendor partner or anybody really. Understand what the stipulations are behind using it and then maximize it. It's tough. And in digital, it is tough. And field marketing is a lot easier. But in digital, you have more of an opportunity because you're able to put that out to 100,000 people versus, at a field marketing in-person event, you're only going to be able to reach out to maybe 100.
Yeah. The challenge I see on the digital side with co-branding is, in your position as an MSSP and a VAR, that most people aren't buying a specific vendor product. They're buying Atlantic data security, right? And what you do, right? The problems you can help solve and the results you can help people get. And so figuring out if you've got a co-brand in some way, like how can you do that while it's still being effective? Because, whatever, pick a vendor, but if advertising just a set vendor and what they do in a digital ad, it's not going to do much.
Yeah. And I mean, if I look at it from that perspective, for the most part, those vendors are already doing that. So it's really honing in on the story and adding value. I mean, the value, the V in VAR is for value add. So finding ways to tell a story, highlighting a customer that had a great outcome from working with ADS and our vendor partner. Those are the things that work the best. And I mean, that's really what gets new people interested in having a conversation with your company. A lot of the time you can keep it more vendor agnostic. You can say, we have a solution for firewalls, and you don't need to dive directly into the vendor. But once you get them on the phone, that's when you say, hey, I have this vendor. They do phenomenal firewalls, and they have all these other products too. We should have a conversation around that with them so you can understand what they do. So using it as more of a foot in the door is really useful. That's often what we have done with our advertising, and we haven't done as much advertising as I want us to do, and that's something we're ramping up this year. And I mean, again, it's just the proof is going to be in the pudding. Is if we can get great leads in and have great conversations, then awesome. And if we can't, then I think you focus those MDF and co-op funds on something that is going to work.
Yeah. How big? You had mentioned you have some field marketing people. How big is your marketing team, and then the sales team at ADS?
Our marketing team total, with myself included, is 8 people. Hopefully going to be 9 soon. And then our sales team is 12 sales reps, and then our VP of sales. And then we have a handful of FSAs, field security architects, who are kind of, they lead in, they're the link between the engineering side and the pre-sales side. I think we have 3 right now. So we've got a pretty robust team from the sales aspect. And then marketing, for the company size that we have, I give a lot of credit to our ownership and letting us really grow the marketing team. When I started, it was 3 of us. Now we're up to 8. So it's got to be a very results-driven department. And hopefully, since we still have 8 people, we're delivering those results.
Yeah. Because how many people are in the company total?
I believe around 65.
Okay. Yeah. So, you guys your owners are investing heavily in marketing. So kudos to them because if you want it to work, you got to invest in it, and you got to do it consistently over time. So are you guys outsourcing any marketing efforts, or is it all being done in-house?
So we are going to be outsourcing some of the content generation from the blog perspective and maybe some of the white papers, a little bit of SEO. But for the most part, we do almost everything internally. I think we've outsourced a couple of video edits and stuff, but primarily it's the boots on the ground within the company that are the ones that make these things happen.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome, man. I love it. To wrap things up, I want to ask you one last question. Knowing what you know now, anything that you would have done differently on your professional journey?
My professional journey specifically?
Or anything. I mean, if there's something that you did at ADS that you would have done differently, whatever you want to share.
I think, honestly, I wish I got into cybersecurity a long time ago. I've been in here for almost 2 years, and I still feel like I know very little about how cybersecurity works because, like I said, it's just constantly evolving. What I could have learned 10 years ago versus what I know now. I mean, if I would have had that extra 10 years in cybersecurity, I would just be a step ahead of where I am right now, and I would understand the market a little bit better. And I think that the marketing team has done a great job of helping each other really learn how to market better to this industry. But I mean, it's a fun industry too. So I kind of wish, just for personal reasons, that I was in it for a little bit longer. And then I think from my marketing journey as a whole, I started in communications and then moved into PR for a little bit. I wish I would have just gone right into marketing from the get-go. But even though when I look at the start of my career in marketing versus where it is now, it's entirely different. When I started, events were really the biggest focus of marketing. Digital marketing was obviously a thing, but it wasn't as robust as it is now, and it wasn't as important as it is now. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just, I wish I would have been in marketing a little bit longer and a little bit earlier in my career, so I could have seen that evolution of how marketing really works. From I don't know, back in like 2014, it would have been great to see how Google Ads has evolved over time, and how the implementation of Meta ads and LinkedIn ads have really changed the landscape of how we go to market.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough industry to real, or I guess a industry segment to learn, and it's just one of those things where if you want to get into marketing, get into it now and learn now. I mean, there's no better time than the present. And again, what works now with the content side and the digital side, maybe in 10 years we're going to be saying that was stupid, we shouldn't have done that, we should be approaching it from a different perspective altogether.
It's very dynamic. But what I should add to that is the principles of it don't change.
No.
Fundamentals, right? The fundamentals in any discipline, they're immutable. They're always going to be there. So, the fundamentals of marketing are don't change, but the tactics are all constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So, Corin, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you for taking the time. You shared a ton of great stuff with us today. Where can people learn more about you if they want to connect?
Yeah, I mean, they can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. Corin Romke. I think I'm the only one on the planet named that. So it's pretty easy to find me. And if you want to learn more about Atlantic Data Security, you can go to atlanticdatasecurity.com, or you can go to our LinkedIn, same name, linkedin.com/in/Atlantic Data Security.
Awesome. We'll make sure that those links are in the show notes. I appreciate you taking the time. Those of you that are watching, listening, appreciate you as well. If you want to connect with us, you can do that at rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. The other resource we've got for you is over at revenue-roadblock-scorecard.com. When we work with clients to help them build their marketing engine, we focus on 9 key areas. If you want to know which of those 9 are slowing down your growth, that's where you can do it. So thank you again. Till next time, take care.